Hi, everyone. Welcome to the third talk of our Hangout series. My name is Kevin Gabayan. I'm a software engineer at Google and the organizer of this talk series. We're again connecting participants across the Pacific, this time with 4 endpoints. We have speakers from Balanga, Manila, and San Mateo, California, and I'm joining you from Google's headquarters in Mountain View, California. With that, I'll add that views expressed by me or other Google employees are not necessarily those of my employer. The topics that we touch upon in this series, empowerment through education, entrepreneurship for economic growth, addressing social needs through technology, are not uniquely Filipino or American, but common globally. And so we look forward to growing our audience to more locations in the future. So yeah, please share with us your recommendations for viewing groups and speaking topics. Today, the City of Balanga has the ambitious goal of becoming a hub for knowledge-based businesses in the Philippines, according to their tagline. In this Hangout, we'll hear 3 different stakeholder perspectives on this topic: the city government, the founder, and the investor. A project development officer from Balanga's Office of Strategy Management will present the city's strategy to attract and support new startups, followed by a startup founder and a startup investor who will share their reactions to Balanga's proposals, as well as their insights on what they've found to be critical elements of their startup experiences. So today, I am honored to introduce Francis Angeles, Project Development Officer in the Office of Strategic Management of the City of Balanga, who will present the city's startup strategy from Balanga and the Philippines. Welcome, Francis. Also, to get a startup founder's perspective on Balanga's efforts, we're honored to be joined by Brian Gamido, co-founder and CEO of Palarin, a Bitcoin startup focused on muddy ribbons in the Philippines, starting with the Philippines, and based out of Silicon Valley in San Mateo, California, in the United States. Welcome, Brian. And for an investor's perspective, we have Earl Valencia. And yeah, the camera isn't quite centered on you right now, Earl, but he is co-founder and president of the Ideaspace Foundation, a startup incubator based in Manila. Earl is also head of corporate development of Smart Communications, the Philippines' largest telecom network provider. Welcome, Earl. And with that, I'll let Francis start her presentation.
Thank you for the introduction, Kevin. So yeah, we'll be starting with the strategy map of the city of Balanga. So I'll just go and there you go. Right. So I entitled this Where This Road Leads, Balanga City Roadmap. So basically you have there on the second slide, we strategy map of the city of Balanga. So this is basically like the map and the Bible of the whole city when in terms of operationalizing our vision. So we have there our vision as mentioned by Kevin earlier. It's Balanga University Town 2020, the emerging hub for knowledge-based businesses in the Philippines. And beneath that, we have 5 government perspectives or areas that we're looking at. So we have the ones in the boxes are what we call objectives. These are the ones which will allow us to gauge whether we are or we are not there in achieving our vision. And then below that, we see the mission of the city to build a family-oriented city with a strong learning atmosphere that will ensure sustainable development and participatory governance. And lastly, we have there our core values: love of God, integrity, and commitment. So basically, this is the summary of the whole of Balanga's plan into becoming a knowledge-based hub in the Philippines. Now, let's go further into the perspective. So on the third slide, we have there, I started off with the process perspective. This is going to be something that's internal. So this is basically what the city is working on so that we can help knowledge-based businesses or startups in Balanga. So we have there our first objective: install a highly interactive and integrated information system. So we have there our measure, the net satisfaction rating of the users and the number of individuals who were served. But unfortunately, as of the moment, we haven't established the baseline and the targets yet because we're looking for statisticians who can help us out with this, because this is the first time that we're going to have a satisfaction rating as a measure of our performance. And then the initiative or the project that we're going to use to attain that is what we call Project ICT for Hosts, or Information and Communication Technology for Holistic Social Equity. So this is basically a kiosk which contains information about the certain services extended by the City Hall to our constituents. And we've also included there the budget for the said kiosk. And we're looking at 200,000 pesos to spend on having that kiosk. Also, on the process perspective, we have there our objectives to intensify the collaboration with the leading academic institutions and knowledge-based businesses in the Philippines, or of course, we're open to international. We have here the initiative, as Ms. Tara mentioned earlier, which is Lipat Kaalaman program, or in other words, we're wanting to have extension programs, but those programs which are only related to the knowledge-based field. So we have there our measures as well, the number of extension programs, and of course the number of sponsorships that we have received from existing businesses. And for this, we did not provide here a budget, meaning that we're at the mercy of sorts for sponsorships and pro bono speakers. Actually, I'd like to thank Sir Earl of Ideaspace, because just March 12th they came over and helped our students here get a grasp of what startups are, pitching and all that stuff. And these are for the process perspective. The next perspective that we're going to talk about will be organization. I'm just going to pass through all of them very fast. On the organization the objective is to transform the city government employees into the most tech-savvy public sector employees in the country. So how are we going to expect our constituents to be tech-savvy and to embrace technology in their daily lives if the city employees are not doing that as well? So that's one thing that we looked into. So our initiative for this is COB Plus. We dubbed it as such because all email addresses so that we can link to each other through Google Plus. So there, our employees are now starting to upload photos of their activities, questions, and stuff. So our measure for that is the percentage of active users based on the total number of employees. For our baseline data, we don't have such because before we used a lot of different email providers. But now, for 2014, the target was all office-based 15, all office-based job order employees. Using Google Plus and actively participating in the activities that we've got there. So because we only need internet connection and the likes, and which we already have in the city, we no longer provided any budget for that particular initiative. Then moving forward on the finance perspective, we have there the objective, which is to maximize the income potential of the city to finance our strategic initiatives. So for here, we have our initiative we call Potent Economic Revenue, comprised of 3 separate projects. We have Bayad na Center, which functions as a payment needs. So we're looking forward to having it accept payments for your electricity bill, for your telecom bill, for your water bill, etc. And then we also have the slaughterhouse transformation. We're wanting to transform it into a training center so that one, we can professionalize the butchers that we have there, and two, provide them training because according to a study that we have held recently, butchers are actually in demand abroad. So we're wanting to open that opportunity to our constituents as well. And lastly, we have the joint venture project. This is a private individual or a corporation in cooperation with the city government will be working on a project to construct a sports complex for the city. But it will be the private sector who will be shouldering the financial side of stuff. So that's what we're going to do. And for this, the budget is only 200,000 pesos, and that will only be for the transformation of the slaughterhouse into a training center. So there. And then for the citizen perspective, that's on the next slide, we have here two objectives. One will be to expand employment opportunities for Balangueños. And the initiative is the Balangueño Entrepreneurial Adaptation and Transformation Program. Simply put, we are going to upgrade and innovate the products and services of the businesses which are already in the city. So homegrown businesses will be the target because we have to have that balance between the people and the companies that we are trying to attract to locate in Balanga, but at the same time make sure that the homegrown one will not be left behind. So for this, there is no budget required really because the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, because primarily Balanga is still an agricultural city. So we have government agencies helping us with this. So we have already secured grants from the Department of Labor and Employment and the Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources without the city actually shelling out money for it. And then the next objective will be to institutionalize a learning, healthy, and family-oriented lifestyles throughout the city because for many onto our title for our initiatives on healthy that we can get to. So the initiative will be Huwag Maging Sad para Laging Healthy and Happy, meaning don't be sad. For SAD stands for smoker, alcoholic, and drug addict. So we're trying to fight those. There's a budget requirement for this because what we're going to do is we're going to put up trainings for the different schools. We have a targeted age group of 6 to 24 years old. So we're targeting schools and out-of-school youth in our barangays. So we want them to three actually, prevention, cessation, and then rehabilitation of the youth who are already engaged in smoking, alcoholism, and drug addiction. So this is for the citizen perspective. Now the next pay attention to because these are the ones which are really directly involved in the startup community that we're trying to build. This is the customer perspective. So the first objective is to attract and support the sustainable workers in the city. The initiative will be the sponsorship of forums and Ideaspace boot camp. So just recently, Ideaspace was here. They helped us out with this one. And again, the city is not really keen on spending too much on this. So we'll just be shouldering incidental expenses. But just like Ideaspace, they were generous enough to lend us their time and energy in helping our students here. And we're looking forward also to a startup weekend that's going to be extended by DOST ICTO. And then Also, we're looking forward to having competitions of our own here in Balanga so that we can train our students when it comes to pitching and those kind of stuff that you need when you try investors to be interested in a startup that you're doing. And then the next objective that we have is to encourage entrepreneurs of knowledge-based and creative business models to invest in the city. So for this, we have a business incubation program. It's also comprised of three. One, we're code so that we can streamline the processes that we have in the city for applying for business permits and the like. And then also we're hooking up startup businesses with angel investors. As of the moment, we only have a government agency helping one of our startups here, of our local businesses here. And then third, we also are going to come up with an investment kit so that startups, whether grown inside or outside of Balanga, will have a guide, the how-tos, and of course, they can set up a business where it's the best location for them. And most importantly, we're looking forward to having and be interested in the startups and the ideas that are being generated by Makerspace in Balanga. So that's one. And then lastly, for this perspective, on the next slide, we have there the enhancement of the distinct university town environment throughout the city. So for this, our initiative is www.cob. It's a four-pronged initiative that we have because, of course, it's very important that they have a data, which is the new oil in the world. So we have their Wi-Fi in public and private areas. So for public Wi-Fis, we are going to install them around the city. So all of the barangays and all of the major open spaces that we have in the city will be Wi-Fi connected. Walkipedia at the plaza. So it's like a pedestal kiosk when you come in into a big shopping center. So it's going to be like that, but the thing is, it's going to have a different content. Again, it will be information about the city and perhaps about the province as well. And then lastly will be the Walk of Knowledge. We're going to install 5 pocket parks along a here in Balanga, which is basically the melting pot, so to speak, of all of the students when they come out of school. They usually, it's going to be an area where there is, again, there will be an interactive kiosk which they can use. It will contain events and current happenings within the city. And then it can also be a place for them to stay, to read, to chit chat or whatever after school. And so you also have there the budget allotted for this. These are the ones which are highly budgeted because it will involve the purchase of equipment and some infrastructure on the part of the pocket parks. And we're wanting to measure this through the satisfaction rating that we're going to get from the users and, well, from the students who are actually going to use and be there in the parks. So basically, these are the projects, the initiatives that we have in order for us to come up and to attain that vision that we have. So that any input that you can give will be highly appreciated. But I'd like to move on into the next slide because basically the challenge in Balanga is the great paradigm shift, meaning that number one, culturally, I guess that's what's this is a personal opinion, of course. I think that's what's wrong or what's lacking in the education system in the Philippines is that students are being trained to be employees and not to be entrepreneurs when they can be entrepreneurs, and that there are a lot of projects in schools which do not have a follow through. Students do not see that point of coming up with a project which they can actually turn into a business, whereas there are a lot of opportunities in that area. And then another thing is, of course, people are inherently resistant to change. So that's one thing also. They have that thinking that when you say knowledge-based business, when you say startup, it will only include people who are knowledgeable in programming, in software development, and electronics and those kind of things. Is a very thing right now. So that's what we're trying to slowly change over the course of the months that we have. And then lastly, I want to show the team the areas we are thinking about when it in terms of starting a business, or well, startups. So we have our own local maker space here, and we've already had a conversation about these. And amongst the many other ideas that we've come up, these three are the most probable, or which are going to have more impact. So number one is the e-commerce, to create a different market for our local products. So it's going to be an avenue um, for selling our local products. And we're also thinking about having a local human resource hub wherein people can just upload their resumes, and then if you want to look for an engineer, an architect, or whatever, you can just look them up online. So that's also one thing that we're looking at. Another thing is the queuing system, to save time and space as well, because we have banks here, universities, colleges, and we've got hundreds, if not thousands, of students flocking to the schools when it comes when enrollment time comes, and it's taking a lot of time and space and effort to just go to the bank and then wait for 2 hours for just your number to be called. So we're thinking about having a queuing system wherein we're thinking of two things. One, they could just a machine could just text or could send a text message to you when your number is coming up. Or two, we'll have a huge screen that will be in our local fast food chains or what have yous, where people can stay, can eat while they're waiting, and they will see their numbers, if they will see the numbers in queue while they are there. So these two were thinking that they could, generate some income or revenue for a startup company. So we're thinking about those two. And then lastly, this one is more on it's for the benefit of the LGU and the constituency. Tricycle scanning, wherein we can have a QR code for the tricycles, which we can scan, and then once you scan it, it will show there the owner of the tricycle, the operator, and then if there are any violations that that tricycle has committed within the last 6 months. So it will be, we're able to track these tricycles, because there are a lot of tricycles here in Balanga, and that's one problem that we're facing as well. So if we can limit that number via the monitoring of the violations that they have committed, then we can probably remove the franchise, do not allow them to do business anymore. So that's one thing. So these are the top three things that we are looking at as of the moment, and um, really we're looking forward to your comments and most importantly your suggestions and recommendations about them. Being a startup company, and of course from the side of Ideaspace. So that's about it for me today. Thank you guys for listening.
Francis, thanks so much for your wonderful presentation. If the other viewers in the United States and in Manila may have also found, we may have had some connection difficulties when it came to the slide with the paradigm shift. So I was hoping that Francis, could you please share us your contents on the paradigm shift slide just once more? I'll just shift the screen over here. Oh, sorry, Francis. It sounds like you're muted right now. So if you could please unmute yourself, then we may be able to hear you. Great.
All right. Okay. You can hear me now, right?
Yes, we can.
Kevin? Okay, great. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, I termed it as a great paradigm shift because we're having trouble of the students basically because they have that thinking that when you say knowledge-based businesses or startups, it's very elitist. So meaning that it's not all inclusive. So when you say, there will only be for people who are good at IT, who are good with electronics and those kind of things, I'm not included in that because I'm into fish drying and those kind of things. I'm into crafts and stuff like that. So I won't be part of that. So that's what we're trying to change. Where we're trying to open up their minds into the possibility of their existing products and services be turned into something that will be technologically assisted, and also for the students, which is the major challenge. We want them to know that the thesis that they've got in school, that the projects that they've got, they don't just they cannot do it just for compliance. That there is something after that, that it can be turned into a business, can be turned into a startup, or something that can be developed further. For so that the thinking is that students will not just be trained as employees, as people who are going to use the technology, but they can be the ones to actually create something out of that existing technology. So those are the things that we're looking at. That mind shift, but mindset shift that we want in our constituents.
Thanks so much, Francis. It's a wonderful presentation, and yeah, there's so much to be excited about for the work that you guys are doing, and I'm sure a lot of great feedback coming as well from both our speakers. So yeah, if the audience over there can physically give her a round of applause, then this is a great time. So thanks so much, Francis. With that, then I'll turn the cameras over to our panelists, Brian Gamido from Palarin and Earl from Ideaspace. So yeah, I'll give some time to Brian to for his reactions and insights now. Brian, if you could, yeah, unmute. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you guys hear me okay? Uh, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
You're clear, yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Francis, thanks a lot for that. I think it's very well done, and I could tell there was a lot of thought put into it. So I think from my perspective, I'm just going to walk through what was helpful for me in terms of understanding what it took to become an entrepreneur and to help me be successful as an entrepreneur. And I'll keep uh, my time to a limited amount of time. But essentially, I kind of break it down into three main buckets. I would say to be a successful entrepreneur, it starts with inspiration, it follows up with knowledge, and then it also follows up with a very strong support system. So I think what I really liked about kind of your presentation is, and this is the slide, it's the great paradigm shift. A lot of it starts with inspiration. So for me, it was understanding that even though I'm one person, you could still make a big impact on the world. You could still, no matter where you come from, you could still try to apply your skills to solve problems. And first of all, you're making a positive impact, on your community, on your country, and in the world. So what I think helped in that is, helping to inspire folks, tell them stories of, how people have gone from rags to riches. One good example from someone from the Philippines was Dado Banatao. I had a conversation with him, and essentially he started walking to his elementary school without shoes. From there, he was able to just really get an inspiration to learn a lot, to develop his skill set, and then to build very successful businesses. And I think what would help for the students is to understand there are a lot of those stories that people can actually really focus themselves, become inspired, apply themselves, and have a big impact on the world through startups, through knowledge-based activities. So that's my first bucket of inspiration. The second kind of theme that I want to impart is knowledge. So once people are actually inspired to solve big problems, the next step is actually to equip them with the right skills to do so. So I liked how you guys are tying in universities to your programs, because universities are the best vehicle for people to learn how to pretty much gain skills to solve problems. So I think here, at least in the Bay Area, there's a couple institutions that were very helpful in teaching people skills like engineering, like math, like science. In addition to that, there's also other skills people learn too, in terms of agriculture, medicine. So essentially, those links with the university, I think, are very helpful. So the closer you can tie yourself with universities, I think the better. And I think the next kind of theme that I would talk about is support. So I really like how you guys are developing government-supported programs to help people learn. So, one example that helped me, at least here in the States, was, like you said, giving people access to Wi-Fi, giving them access to a lot of the information out there, whether they want to read about people starting businesses, whether they want to learn about certain skills. For me, like, I would always go to the library, go use the internet and learn about computer science, learn about business. And I think for me, at the end of the day, it helped me learn skills to be a successful entrepreneur. So I think, in addition to that, again, I think one key component that helped me as an entrepreneur after I got inspired, after I got knowledge, after I got support in terms of facilities, again, it's also the ecosystem. So in the States, the startup ecosystem is very supported. That comes in pretty much the form of institutions, angel investment. I think that's very key as well. Once people can understand, hey, here's investments that I can make, and it's a win-win situation where I'm helping someone solve a problem. At the end of the day, it could become very lucrative, and at the end of the day, you're starting companies, you're building companies that will become employers of people, and at the same time, it could be very lucrative for the shareholders of those communities. So I think those are just kind of the themes that that came to mind as I kind of listened to your plan. I think it's a pretty good plan. I think maybe the next step is kind of digging into the next level of detail. So I think a lot of the objectives are very clear. I think the programs that you mentioned are step one in figuring out how do you meet those objectives, and then it's kind of like building a more tactical plan on reaching those objectives. So those are my kind of quick thoughts. I'll kind of pause there if that made sense, or if there's any kind of questions there.
Thanks so much, Brian. And
no problem.
Yeah, it's well spoken. So yeah, I guess now I'll hand it over to Earl with his comment.
I guess, can you hear me just to verify?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, so I definitely have a lot of positive reactions. In fact, that I met some of those, the mayor and I guess the students when I brought them to Silicon Valley about a year ago, where we met with Kevin. And the time that they progressed from that point is just amazing. So I'm extremely inspired by what they've done. One of the comments that I want to do is, building an ecosystem is part hardware and part software. And what I mean by that, right? So hardware is obviously a physical location, it's Wi-Fi, it's it's different things. But then in order to create really a vibrant kind of local startup ecosystem, it's all about the software, which is the events, right? So as all of us know here, who might have been to a lot of these more mature ecosystems, is how do you incentivize for people to have just, even if it's simple events, gatherings of some sort every month, or if not every other week, right? So just people who are like-minded will kind of come together. Another observation is really like a kind of looking at the need, right? Because I like about the paradigm shift, right? And it doesn't become elite if it solves problems that's important for the region, if not important for the country. So I really hope that at least my reactions is, are there 2 to 3 that Balanga or Bataan is really, really good at, that you can kind of rally the entire local government, our own region's competitive advantage? I don't know, you mentioned agriculture, maybe it's in kind of IT services, or maybe it's in transportation. I'm not really sure, right? And it's something that I think from the strategy team of I guess the city, you have to think of what are the kind of areas that that's needed by your community, but something that you can also scale to other regions, if not other parts of the world. And that's an observation. And then one last part of the software side is, can you create more role models, kind of hometown stories for you guys, so that it's not, again, an elitist thing. Because it's easy for some of us, for example, like I went to Stanford, right, to kind of tell you about what should be done. But it's different if a local person from the local university starts telling the other young people that it can be done. So I think you just have to highlight more of these stories, and and get that, again, get going, not every month, just some event, even so simple it is. Have people in the maker space and just talk about kind of something, right? So at least that's kind of my reaction to your vision, and I think it's extremely commendable in what you've done in the past 1 year. It's been amazing to see the journey.
Thanks so much, Earl. It's very, very encouraging for our viewers, and I'm really glad that that you guys are such a great and ideal Ideaspace and Palarin speakers for this event. So thanks again. Yeah, some thoughts come to mind from here too, that there are just a lot of resources available in the world for this kind of work, and fortunately the internet brings us these opportunities to have this face-to-face connection with you guys today. and some of which that we physically take for granted in places like in Silicon Valley, in more urban places as well. And so I feel that this is enabling technology for us to be able to deliver this this content to you today, and hopefully things like continued and lifelong education resources that can help you guys achieve the goals that you'd like to attain. And one point that Earl mentioned about incentivization, that I guess government involvement with some of the startup activity that we have in Silicon Valley isn't the first thing that comes to mind all the time, but there have been some wonderful applications of government incentivization, like the DARPA Grand Challenge that has put up a prize, a very large prize for the case of driving a car from Barstow to Vegas, but there are other places where smaller prizes have been present, like that of Kaggle.com, which runs data science competitions for sometimes no money or small amounts of money, and it just enough to push beyond just the bragging rights of people to get started on these very, very cutting edge projects as well. So just shifting just a little bit of the Wi-Fi budget into these incentivization goals might just grease the wheels a little bit more. But yeah, there are a lot of very interesting projects that are very special to Balanga as well. So we look forward to hearing more about them as we continue to keep in touch with you, and hopefully a year from now, with the data that you've given us about your current metrics, then we can have you, Francis, again for another talk, and we can update the spreadsheet and see how we're doing. So thanks again for all of this information. So with that, let's please open up the Q&A to the audience. Are there any questions out there that they'd like to ask any of the panelists or Francis?
Yeah, I'll go ask them right now. Guys, questions?
Yeah, go ask questions. Yeah, go ask questions.
Yeah, we've got here a question. Yeah, we have here a question, ma'am. Can you guys understand Filipino?
Well, as I mentioned last talk, I'm still working on it over here, so we'll also track my progress over time as well. How about you? I know. How about you, Brian and Earl?
Little bit.
Yeah.
All
right, so there are our panelists' answers.
Yeah, we've got here a question. So I'll give.
So what do you think would be the best way to spark the interest of the students to begin startups? Since that is one of the city, and the best way to do that is to spark the students, especially from our university, from BPSU.
Okay, I can take part of that if that's the case, right? At least my advice is, how do you just create platforms for people to showcase their ideas, right? So, one observation we had coming all over the Philippines is that schools are outlets for students to, like there's pitch competition, a classroom type of thing, or a startup alley for their students specifically basically to kind of develop something, and then in the end, there's a challenge, right? So I'm a strong believer in kind of challenges or competition. I think Kevin kind of mentioned that as well. Where can you then award the top five most promising kind of startup student ideas in the city? These small types of awards actually create a big network effect to support them, right? Because startups in general is really a hard thing to do, right? Even when I started Ideaspace, a lot of people thought I was kind of start an incubator where there's no such thing in the country. So, but I just had a support group, and once started, like I see that there's traction. I see that people are trying to use it, people are applying. Then it got a little bit more inspiring for me to push forward. But the hard part is to start, and if no one's supporting you at the start, it's actually easy to quit. So I'm hoping that you just have a supportive atmosphere, and then basically like just have challenges, people to kind of validate it, professors to say what a good job, and I think that's a very good kind of ecosystem to start with locally.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I really like that idea of, it's probably maybe two different events. Maybe there's an event sponsored by the government, pretty much telling people, this is the cool things you can do when solving a problem, when having a startup. Hey, it can also be very lucrative and helpful for yourself and your community. And then I really like Earl and Kevin's kind of idea of, say, a hackathon or a competition on who can be the most innovative and who has the best approach to solve a real-world problem. I think if you can incent people with prizes, that's going to get people jazzed. That's going to get people excited to actually participate and come up with really good ideas and really good businesses. So I like that approach.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Earl. I have a question from our viewing group in the Makerspace. The question is, what type of ecosystem did Brian have to make him interested in pursuing the startup path?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So for me, it's always reading. So for me, I read the stories of Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Larry Ellison, and a lot of people don't know that these people started without a lot, without a lot of money or resources. But what they had was inspiration. They had the will to try something new and the courage to continue. So that that pretty much inspired me to look down different entrepreneurial paths. And then for me, what I wanted to do was I then wanted to build the right skills to make sure that I had what I needed to start a business. And that included going to school, studying. In my case, it was studying computer science, and then studying business, and then working in the business world for several years, and then starting a business. I would also add to that is what was very helpful for me was an accelerator program, and that's pretty much what I believe Earl's doing with Ideaspace. But it's essentially someone who wants to invest in businesses. They believe in what is being solved, and they believe that a lot of value could be created for customers, for shareholders, and for companies building value and employing people. So I think that was kind of the ecosystem that I had. And one key point is I was born and raised in the States, but a lot of people, there's a lot of resources that people can have to learn skills to pretty much solve big problems. And you don't need big universities for that, but you do need access to knowledge, which I think you guys are helping with.
Thank you, Brian.
Sure.
Is there another question from the room? Okay, well, in the meantime, then we have a question from the room in Google Mountain View as well. And it was asking about the Wi-Fi in Balanga. For the public Wi-Fi, then we were curious if there were any measures that would be taken to prevent any abuse of the Wi-Fi system, if it were being used to just to browse Facebook or to check your Instagram. How could we ensure that it was used towards the goals of your university town?
Yeah, that's also a question that we had when we started and when we conceived the idea. But the thing is, number one, our Wi-Fi systems will be connected to our CCTV system, meaning that the administration of the server will still be in on the part of the city. So our Management Information Services Office has the capability to restrict the websites that can be viewed through their devices via the Wi-Fi network that we will be providing. It's going to be like the same thing that we do in the office, because in the whole city hall has Wi-Fi connection. But the thing is, we cannot access all of the internet sites that we have. So that's one thing that we're going to do. We're going to ensure that we can place that restriction on the websites.
Right, thank you, Francis. Are there other questions from the room? Or questions from the panelists back to Balanga?
Yeah, so maybe I just have a quick comment, Francis. I like how you wanted to make sure that the government employees were very tech savvy. I would challenge you guys to take that a step further. So it's good for the government to be tech savvy, but it's also good for the government to teach the community how to be tech savvy. So one instance that I had growing up, for instance, was the local library. They knew how to work with computers, and then they would teach other people. They would teach people like me on, this is how you actually conduct research on the internet. These are the different sites that you can go to. So I guess my only comment is, make sure that your government employees are very tech savvy, but have certain programs where they can share that knowledge with the community, because I think that's when the community can learn a lot from the government employees' tech savviness.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Actually, well, number one, even if we didn't have the same vision as we had right now, because we had a different vision prior to this one, we already are conducting, we have what we call week, wherein trainings to the barangays,
Mm-hmm.
to the lowest unit of political unit in the society. So we do that. We've actually had a couple of basic computer literacy trainings for them. So that's one thing that we have already done. But yeah, you're right. We will need to step up from the current basics that we are teaching. And in the initiative that I've just mentioned earlier, COB Plus, they're already also working on providing trainings for number one for our employees, and then yeah, we'll be thinking about extending it to the community as well. Thank you for that,
Great,
Brian.
great.
Yeah, I'll just comment really quickly, and I guess it's, again, one of these things is I'm hoping that the vision really is how to use technology to improve, I guess, your community's lives, right? So I think that's really when people will get the buy-in that the vision will become real, and that all these efforts to become a knowledge-based city really impacts their lives. So I think, I guess I don't have any specific thing, but at least that's a framework that you can think about. So when you communicate to people why you want to do this IT upgrade, why you want Wi-Fi, and then they can feel that their lives at least are getting a little bit better through saving time or better processes, or again, maybe better agriculture yield, or etc. Right, more knowledge. So that's something, I guess, that is maybe a framework that we can, I mean, even I can, and yourself can work together to kind of help out the community.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Earl. Are there any more questions from the room?
I think we have students who've got questions, but they're still trying to straighten their English. No, just kidding. They're trying to formulate a question. So yeah, we're just waiting for them, guys. There you go. We have one good-looking guy from our university who's got a question. I'll be putting him on the line. Kinakabahan ka ba, Ben? Hinga ka, ha?
Hi. Good morning, Sir Brian and Sir Earl. I have a question. Can you give us, where's the mic? Can you give us an idea of what is Palarin and what is Ideaspace Foundation and um, what kind of impact can it have in society and to us teenagers? So actually think learning is cool.
Yeah, I can start that off. I'll give you a quick overview of what Palarin is. So Palarin is essentially a solution to enable people to send money abroad cheaper. So we're leveraging a new technology called Bitcoin to enable people to send money to places like the Philippines for a lot less. So if you think about the Philippine economy is driven by international remittances. There are 10 to 11 million OFWs living outside the Philippines to send money, working abroad to send money back home. And we like to cut fees in the process of sending money home. So a lot of times people will use Western Union or MoneyGram, and they're pretty expensive. So say you wanted to send $100 USD, a lot of times those companies would charge you 10 to 15%, which is pretty expensive. So what we wanted to do, or what I wanted to do, was develop a solution that would enable people to send money to the Philippines for cheaper. And for me, it started with a personal story. So I wanted to have this impact because my aunt was actually an OFW. I grew up in LA, but she lived with me in LA to send money back to her 6 children in the Philippines. And frankly, I was bothered by how much money she was wasting to these big companies, and it's something that I've always wanted to solve. So it kind of goes back to my original theme of get inspired, try to solve a problem to help people, and it can be very impactful as well from the business perspective and from the personal perspective. So the international remittance market is actually $516 billion. That's huge. That's a lot of money that are going to certain companies, and we're trying to make that more efficient. And in that process, hopefully we can, number one, help people, and also hopefully build a company that can employ people, that can give back to shareholders, and create an impactful business. So that's Palarin in a nutshell.
Okay, and I guess Ideaspace. I know we did the boot camp there, but in general, it is a startup incubator and accelerator focused on emerging market needs. But then, how we're different that we start at the idea and prototype stage, because that's an inefficiency in actually in the Philippines now. What we realize is that nobody takes a chance on people even with prototypes. So what we do is that we go all around the country, even in Balanga, and we do events, community supported events, and then we do a national competition. We got about 1,000 teams to apply last year. We pick about 10, and then we incubate the 10 and accelerate them and give them some seed capital. The total package of Ideaspace is about a million and a half pesos, about 25,000 US dollars to start with. And then we also have an option to invest further funding from 50 to 100,000 US dollars. Again, we're a non-profit foundation, so any equity we get will go back to the endowment to make it a bigger foundation in the future. So we're betting on the country, and we're betting that some of you who are listening right now have maybe the bright idea. Maybe you can incubate it in Balanga, but then eventually apply to a program like myself to kind of take it to market, to take it national, maybe even global. Right?
Sounds like I'm getting some feedback from maybe Earl's window.
Uh, that's all, sir. Thank you for enlightening us. So, finish all my questions.
Here's one from the Makerspace group. The question is, what is the greatest challenge when putting up a startup and a startup ecosystem in the Philippines, aside from paradigm shifts? This question is for Earl. So Earl, if you hit the that's great.
Yep. Okay. There you go. Yeah. There you go. So I guess it's even startup ecosystems and startups have kind of similar things when you're trying to grow it from scratch, right? So my observation really is, although we talked about it already in the past, is that how do we create a great support environment for you? But then what really needs to be done is focus at the early onset, right? And what do you focus on if you want to start a business? Focus on the need or the idea, right? What the problem you're solving? Focus on building a team to execute, and then how do you get support structures to help you make it a business? Either it's accelerators, either it's investors, either it's other governments incentives, etc., to help you. We have the saying in Ideaspace is that it takes actually a village to raise a startup, right? And again, that village is you guys to kind of help each other. And then another thing also to build a startup ecosystem is actually the same thing. Is there a specific kind of need that your community wants to solve that will really impact positively your community, right? And then is there a team dedicated to execute? The hard part I see about kind of startup ecosystem is that if it's everything is part-time, right? Part-time of founders, part-time of administrator, part-time incubation managers, things don't work. You have to go in there full time because it's so difficult, right? We want to create a paradigm shift, and you have part-time help. It's not very easy to do that. And then also see also that the whole ecosystem or the community. So literally from government to people who want to build infrastructure to incentivizing people to come there to teach you things and other types of kind of support mechanism all have to work together to create an ecosystem. Else it becomes an academic exercise. So at least that's what my observations are, both at the kind of startup level is actually the same, but you need to go all in or else it does not work, right? So that's kind of my observation.
Thank you, Earl. Francis, more questions from the room?
Hey, Kevin, I think we have one more question from the group.
Great.
Hello, this is a question for Sir Brian. How long has Palarin been operational, and is it non-profit? Because uh, the way I understand it is you're trying to send money from abroad to the Philippines for a lot less, and how how sustainable do you think this is? Because you'll be earning a lot less.
Yeah, that's a great question. So essentially, Palarin is a for-profit business. You can think of us like Western Union or MoneyGram, but the way that we're actually able to operate is we've developed technology to make the process of sending money super cheap. So I think that is one of the beautiful things about technology. You can optimize certain processes, you can make things more efficient, you can still make a profit as as a business and still pass that savings on to the customer. So my vision is to make this a billion-dollar company. I think there's a big problem to be solved. We want to be profitable, but at the same time, we just want to make sure that processes are more efficient, and we want to pass some of that savings on to the customer. So from my perspective, we're designing the business and the technology to be very sustainable, hopefully to add value for years to come and become a billion-dollar business.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, no problem.
Are there more questions from the room?
I think we have one more. Is this the last one? Can we make way for last two questions from the group?
Please do.
I will have. There you go.
So good morning. Hello. I would just like to ask, what sparked you or inspired you to go out there to push yourself in the world and start a company?
Yeah, so I can start with that. So essentially, I think my grandpa, he started a lot of businesses in the Philippines, and I kind of got a lot of inspiration from him because what I learned from him and my dad were they wanted to learn a lot, they wanted to apply themselves to do something big and have a big impact, and that's something that I grew up with, and that's something that I took into middle school, high school, college, graduate school, and now starting a business. I think the main theme is get inspired, like be know that even though you're one individual, you can still have a big impact in the world if you try really hard. It's always going to be a function of how hard you work. It's going to be a function, a little bit of luck, but a lot of it is like your courage and persistence. And I think once you believe that you have you're as smart as anyone else in this world. You're at the same point that Bill Gates was when he was in high school, same point that Steve Jobs was when he was in high school. And once you realize that, then you find the courage to try something. And there's risk, but I think my perspective is in this life, we're given 24 hours in the day, we're given a certain number of years, and you might as well try to make the most of yourself. So that was kind of like that was my thinking when I grew up and eventually started a business.
My inspiration really, well, there's a couple of things, but the first one, like Brian is, actually my grandfather was a scholar in UP and he was a janitor. And then he ended up building a multi-million dollar company, based in Davao. So, I realized that entrepreneurship is a path for a lot of people to create their own destiny. So that's one part. And then another inspiration actually is that I was I guess, engineer, and I'm still now an engineer. But then I used to work in the aerospace industry, so I built satellites and rockets, and I didn't see a lot of people from the Philippines that are doing research and development. And that's one frustration of mine. I got into a school in Boston, MIT, and when I was in UP, I realized that anybody in my classmates could have gotten in. They just need more opportunity. So when I started Ideaspace, I have a kind of one rule, which is meritocracy. So I want to make sure that all of you who want to try to get the funding have an equal chance. So we take out names and affiliations, even when we look at your application. So, even if your last name is not, related to President Aquino or something like that, you have the same chance as someone maybe who's his kid or something, right? Or who is his relative. because I think the world works when all of us kind of have the same opportunity, or at least an equal opportunity to create your own destiny. And that inspires me kind of every day that maybe one of you guys that I'm talking to today could be kind of the next Mark Zuckerberg of the world, and maybe that's I hope you guys are my inspiration more than anything else.
Well spoken, both of you. Is that it for questions? Any more?
This is the last question from the team.
Hello, sir. Good morning. I'd like to ask is how does Ideaspace and Palarin is being implemented in the Philippines, and how does it covers the student development in terms of having their idea growing, and the idea of making something and building it. So this thing is already working in the Philippines, or it's just a beta, I think, sir.
Yeah, I can start off. So right now, Palarin is a startup. We are operating in the Philippines. Part of our team is in the Philippines, but I think as we grow in terms of resources, we'd love to plug in and help teach students, or tell them our story. We're not at huge scale yet because we started operating within this year, but it's my hope and vision that once we do become a bigger company, we can definitely plug into programs like yours, communities like yours, and share our knowledge, share some resources. So I think that's definitely, I believe, in our future.
So Ideaspace actually is, I guess, not in beta anymore. We started it. So I started Ideaspace 3 years ago, and since then we have funded about 28 companies, and actually this year we'll fund another 10 to 12. So it's going to be around 40 or 40 something by this year. So we fund companies from north to south. And some of our more successful startup companies are from Batangas or from Zamboanga, from Manila, from other parts of the Philippines. So, we do about an event twice a week. Actually, we went to Bataan, and then I'll probably be back in Bataan at least maybe one time again this year, because we're just trying to look for people who are motivated and the best type of ideas all over the country, and maybe it's one of you, right? So it's already operational, and maybe we'll expand. We have an incubation network program that maybe your makerspace can benefit from using, and we teach you the tools of how to create your own incubator, and that's something that will help you with this year.
Thanks very much, both of you. At this time, then.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Are there any more questions from the room?
Yeah, I think that's about it for us here in
Great.
Balanga. Thank you very much, Sir Brian and Sir Earl. And of course, Kevin, thank you so much.
Yes, thanks so much. Thank you, Francis, for this wonderful session today. At this point, I'll put in a blurb for some of the resources that we have available that's related to tonight's or this morning's talk. We have an educational technology workshop from May 25 to May 29, 2015. Being run at Ateneo de Manila University by one of my Google colleagues, Matthew Kam, who is a senior user experience researcher. The workshop's goal is to familiarize local education leaders with a process for developing their own educational technology implementation plans so they can integrate technology in high-impact ways into their classrooms, schools, universities, and educational programs. So, so I encourage anyone interested in Balanga to participate in this great opportunity to explore educational technology, especially for the Philippines. They already have 12 local universities and schools signed up, and I'd love for you guys to take part in that. There are also other resources that are available from Google, Google Business Groups, Google Education Groups, and some scholarships available. And we really ought to start collecting email addresses from the audience if they'd like to continue keeping in touch with some of the resources. Do you guys have an email address that that everyone can send an email to that that you wouldn't mind collecting email addresses from?
Actually, we have already connected their email addresses, those of the participants who are already here.
Wonderful.
So we've already got their addresses.
Okay, great. Yeah, so yeah, if they'd be interested in us directly sending that information to them, then you can do that, or I can just send it. You can just forward the email to them. That's a better idea. So.
Yeah. We'll do that.
Awesome. So such a wonderful session. I'm so grateful that Francis, that Brian, that Earl could join us today, and we look forward to the next session. We hope to bring a workshop on design thinking to you guys very soon. So, so please come and let's keep the momentum going. Take care, guys. We'll see you later.
Thanks, Kevin, for organizing. Great job. Thank you, guys, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. It was awesome.